Hey folks, Ariel over here. So this is a project we worked on this winter up through today. This is something I wanted to do ever since we planned originally to build the big steel building that is now our shop here on the property, and that we are now 4 years out from when we started those plans, and we're finally getting to doing it. So we knew when we created that building that it was going to give us a gigantic south-facing dark metal wall, which seemed like it could be used for something like creating a microclimate for growing things that do not normally survive in our area. So now that we're getting to this, we, through the winter, assembled a bunch of planter beds that I'll link down below to. It's just a kit that we got so far. I can't give you any report on the longevity yet, but they seem solid, and I'm pretty happy with how they feel for the price they were. Anyway, we got them all assembled through the course of the winter. It took us a minute to figure out how to put them together, but then it went pretty efficiently, and we kind of got a system down. It's definitely easier with 2 people and a power screwdriver, though you could do it with 1 person and by hand. This was definitely faster. Then once the sun came out and melted the snow this spring, you can see there's still snow in the background there, but had it all melted along the side of the building here. We had to add a little gravel because the gravel was sloped away from the building, which made the planters tip away, and we wanted them to actually sit level. So we needed to add some gravel here, level it out, and then get the planters filled. Now, like I said, the idea here is that this would be a bit of a microclimate. This side of the building faces south, so it picks up the most sun heat. It also, especially early in the spring and late in the fall when our days are shorter because we're in a fairly northerly climate. There's also the gravel lane comes right beside this side of the building, and so the gravel, which of course is just small rocks, picks up and retains and radiates some heat. And then the metal wall being dark gray also adds to the heat retention. And then of course we got planter beds in dark gray. They come in other colors as well. So we got them all leveled out, smoothed the gravel under them, and lined them all up and down the long side of this building. So this is going to be a bit of an experiment to see what we can actually grow here. I think some things should survive that would not if I planted them out in the wide open on our property. But we're going to have to spend a year or 2 trying different things in here to see what actually is happy. But this was kind of a fun project to put the beds together back when it was still wintry and we couldn't do anything else outside. And then to be able to, we had a few sunny days. As I said, you can still see snow melting there in the background down toward the tiny house, to get these, outside and in place. And then we started filling them. So to fill each one, I put a lot of cardboard in the bottom. Been saving cardboard all winter long for this. And then filled it up with some branch tips and twigs, let's see here in a minute, that should just, decompose over time to give it more nutrients and so on. Then we had some mostly rotted wood chips. It's a pile that's about maybe getting close to 8-9 years old. It was a pile Clay had before we moved to this property. Obviously, we haven't been here that many years. Filled up a bunch of them. Again, that acts kind of like a giant sponge to retain moisture as well as add nutrients as it breaks down. So there's some of my twig tips on top of the cardboard. And then this was as we were getting it filled, and we did, pretty good load of the rotted wood chips. And then from there up, we mixed some of those well-rotted wood chips with topsoil, which just came off the property. It was actually out from under where this building was placed because we removed all the topsoil before pouring the slab that the building sits on. So anyway, that is what they are filled up to the top with. And in the very top layer, you can see some of the beautiful mycorrhizal fungi, probably not mycorrhizal, different fungi strands that were in this mostly broken down wood chips. They made this rock screen almost by accident. He made it on purpose, but originally its purpose was to cover a burn barrel so that nothing could fly out, but it also happens to fit our wheelbarrow really well. It's a zip tie that you saw him fixing up in another video. And so when we need topsoil like this, it's a really wonderful way to screen all the material through and sort out grass roots, lots of rocks, and everything else that we don't want to go, say, into our planters. And this works quite well. If we're careful, the worms that are in here, of which there are quite a few, either fall through the wire sometimes to keep them from getting squished, I catch them and throw them over the edge. But there's a lot of earthworms in this soil. That gives you an idea of, what was that, 5 or 6 shovelfuls?
Yeah.
5 or 6 shovelfuls, how much rocks there would be in the beds if we weren't doing this. And this was just made with a scrap of hardware cloth that I think was maybe left over after doing the garden beds.
Mm-hmm.
And a bunch of little scrap one-by material that was left from somebody else's building project. And you can see in these chunks of soil the earthworm holes and tunnels that they've made. And there's a big guy whose home we just messed up. And also in here's part of the fun of cleaning up a property that was abused for a while. Glass shards everywhere. We've got a collection going on the bottom of our burn pit where they get buried in the ash and nobody runs into them. In case you're wondering where I just pitched that. This is some fairly beautiful soil, as long as it's not too wet, because it's very, very heavy clay, along with rocks from that to this, etc. Hence the rock screen, and occasionally other treasures. What do you suppose that is?
Well, I believe it's a chunk of metal.
Yeah, I can tell that. Just wasn't sure what kind of chunk of metal.
I don't know, we find some really fun stuff. It's part of an axle, I think.
There is debris that will, I am sure, continue coming up for years. This topsoil pile we're digging into just came from where the shop building was built. Took the topsoil off before building that. But it matches what we are finding in the rest of the property. Random chunks of metal, glass shards everywhere, which I'm truly not sure how somebody managed to do, because they're individual pieces. Like you would have had to break individual things and then travel around the property discarding one piece here and one there, which seems silly.
Boy, we got a party going on here.
Got all kinds of chickens now. You can see what nice fine soil that is. Lots of earthworms in it. Partly why the chickens are hanging out. Clay has a girlfriend. She's very in love. Her name is Blondie. She has figured out that everywhere he works, if you are right at his feet, he might turn up a bug or a worm, whether he's shoveling dirt or gravel or splitting firewood. He makes bugs appear. So she is his very favorite chicken, or at least he's her very favorite person.
What do you think? You're a good one there? Right.
Sometimes the other chickens will come close, but none of them love Clay quite as much as Blondie does.
Blondie?
And no wonder she loves him. He'll even pause work just to find bugs just for her. Our nice, quiet, big electric wheelbarrow here was extremely handy while doing this project. We mixed, like I said, the soil and the wood chips coming up because our soil is extremely heavy clay, and so that was key to getting some organic material into there. Also tried to water the layers as we went and were filling it because these beds are 2 feet deep, so that it wouldn't be so time consuming and difficult to get the material thoroughly soaked from the top down. They seem to come up with a pretty nice soil mixture. In the very top couple inches, I did add the minerals amendments that our soil testing on the garden had shown that our soil needs to be well balanced. So hopefully these beds will be off to a much better start from day one than our original garden beds were, which are now very productive as well. And now this is what they look like today. Clay added these boards in the back, which are right where the water splash line comes down off the roof. Works perfectly. It kind of splashes the water out across the whole bed and prevents dirt from splashing up onto the sidewall of the building. Anyway, put a few pansies and petunias in the front just to be pretty, but through the mesh that keeps the birds out. Apparently not the cats. You can see we have various things coming up. There's little corn shoots back there. We are trying a variety of things this year. I assume a lot of them will be a failure, to see what will grow in this little microclimate. There is some kind of little mini watermelon. Lots and lots of little seedlings coming up through here. These are little safflowers and so on. You get the idea. We're trying all kinds of things, and we'll see what's actually happy. So this is what we've got. This is kind of going to be a fun experiment. It gives us a really nice height of planter. The other garden beds, as you probably know, are only 8 inches deep, so there's a limit on some of the root depth of things I can grow in there. And I planted a lot of things that I'm fairly certain will not all survive in our climate, but after doing this for a year or so, hopefully I will have a really good idea of what can grow in this particular spot. In all total, these beds have added about another 140 something square feet of gardening space. I'm not necessarily counting on any food production out of it this year. It'll be fun if we get some. And a few of the things I planted there are just herbs and flowers and such anyway, because we want the beauty and the, benefits of making tea and feeding our honeybees and so on. So come back toward the end of summer and we'll see what is actually growing in here. But so far, we're really happy with this setup. These planters seem very solid, and they're also being now our rainwater catchment system and utilizing any rain that does come off our roof here. We get very little rain in the summer typically, but utilizing any rain that does come off the roof to water them so that hopefully we don't have to do a lot of watering. So we'll see how that goes. Thanks for spending your valuable time with us.
I hope you learned something interesting and useful.
Or found something beautiful here.